There is this gap between the haves and the have-nots, a growing gap, in fact. When 1% of the people control 42%, own and control 42% of the wealth, that's a problem. When 1 out of 2 Americans is either in or near poverty, you take the perennially poor or the persistent poor. On top of them, the new poor. We argue in this book, the new poor are the former middle class, and the near poor, folk who are paycheck away. That's 150 million Americans wrestling with poverty. Mitt Romney, who Juan referenced earlier, wants to call this the politics of envy, but we think it's about fundamental fairness, and that's what we're trying to talk about in the book.
I mean, that's an astounding figure. I just want to stop and not let it go by.
I say the same thing.
1 in 2
Exactly.
Americans?
1 out of 2 of us, 150 million people, is either in or near poverty. So you got half of your democracy fighting to get out or to stay out of poverty. And what we argue in this book is that poverty threatens our democracy, and that poverty is a matter of national security, that poverty is no longer color-coded. Americans of all races, all colors, all creeds, as you mentioned, Amy, on our poverty tour last summer, 11 states, 18 cities, we saw all kinds of Americans wrestling with this issue. And finally, we saw on this tour poverty that was so extreme, Juan, that it's clear to us that a slight uptick in our economy, the kind of which we're experiencing now, a slight uptick is not going to do much of anything to really alleviate or to address the kind of poverty that we saw. This poverty is not a character flaw anymore. It's a societal crisis.
Many of the poor will use the money irresponsibly. The high rate of alcohol and drug addiction and other social problems assure a massive amount of waste in the entitlement arena. Americans are the most generous people on earth, but the truth is that income redistribution doesn't work. For what the feds spend now on entitlements, every single poor person in America could be handed almost $21,000 a year.
That was Bill O'Reilly, Fox News, Professor Cornel West.
Well, we've got a section in this book where we talk about the myths and lies told about poor people in poverty. One is that poor people have character flaws and make bad decisions. I know a lot of oligarchs and plutocrats who have character flaws, make bad decisions and still get bailed out, still have access to welfare, still have socialism for them, as it were. So Brother O'Reilly, he just falls right into the right-wing trap in that regard. And he talks about income redistribution. What we've seen is the most massive income distribution from poor and working people to the well-to-do. So he's not against income distribution. It's just when it's top-down, he's against it. When it's bottom-up, he's all for it. And that's, in fact, he sees it as a natural process of the free market and so forth. So we had to shatter the myths that he's putting forward.